Neil, first of all, who most influenced you in your love of cricket?
Well, I was fortunate. I come from a big family, and I had 6 boys and a girl in our family, and they were all pretty fair cricketers as it turned out in the long run. My eldest brother, Mervyn, was the instigator and the rest of us playing, and he was a very good player. He played Sheffield Shield cricket for Victoria, and he also managed one test match against England in 1946-47. So he's a pretty fair player. And he was followed by Mick, and then Harold and Ray, myself and Brian. That's the clan. But 4 of us played Sheffield Shield cricket. 2 of us played Test cricket, although Merv only played the one match, but Ray played Shield cricket and Mick played Shield cricket. So it's quite a splendid record to have.
Okay, and what was your favourite cricket ground and why?
Well, I've got a lot of favourite cricket grounds. I mean, I suppose when you do well on one of them, you sort of remember the one more than others. But I suppose, seeing I only captained Australia once, and happened to be on this Lord's cricket ground, it occurred when Richie Benno was captain, and he developed this bad shoulder, which forced him out of the second Test match at Lord's here in 1961. And he came up to me and said, "I can't play." He said, "It's all yours." So I said, "Okay." So morning of the game, I said, "Anything special you want done?" He said, "No, it's all yours." I said, "Good, that's just the way I want it." So we went out and we actually won the game, which was great. And as it turned out, it was a very good game of cricket. It was a game played on a nasty wicket. It was called the Battle of the Ridge, because there was a drain going across laterally on a good length. And if the ball pitched on the bowler side of the drain, you might have got it under the chin. But if it pitched on the batting side of the drain, you might have got hit on the ankle. So it was one of those nasty wickets, and most of the wickets in that actual match fell down that end, of course, as you can imagine, because we had some fairly lethal bowlers on both sides. I mean, Davo, one of the best bowlers that Australia's produced, Alan Davidson was my main stroke bowler, and a young guy, 20 years of age, playing his first Test match, called Graham Mackenzie. And of course England had Truman and Statham, and when you get a wicket like that, they can be fairly difficult customers. Anyway, we won the game, and there was some pretty good performances in that game. I think I saw Bill Lawry play the innings of his life. He made 132, and I think we all got tired of counting the number of times he got hit on the body. He just stood up there and took them, and it was a great innings, and it put us in a match-winning position. Davo, 5 wickets in the first innings, bowling into the bad end, and in the second innings came about. I suppose I'm a bit of a softy at heart, but I said to Davo, I said, "I want you to do me a favour." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want you to bowl into the good end, so I can give Graham Mackenzie a run into the bad end, playing his first Test match." I probably shouldn't have done it, but I did. But it turned out trumps, because Graham got 5 for 37, and I think it helped make him into a pretty good Test bowler. But the second innings was almost disastrous for us. We only needed about 70 to win, and we lost 6 wickets doing it. So Freddie got his dander up, and so did Brian Statham, and they got a few early wickets. I think we were 4 for 20 odd. But a little cameo from Peter Burge won the game for us. I was last out before Peter came in, and as I passed him on the ground, not in the pavilion but on the ground, like we should pass people, I said to him, "Belt hell out of him, Pete," knowing what a stroke player he was. And he just did that. He made these 37 not out in even time, and it won the game for us. So that will go down as my favourite ground, because I only captained Australia once, and I retired as captain with a 100% record.
Fantastic.
Well, there's other good grounds this time, and Sydney's been great for me, and Sydney Cricket Ground, and Melbourne's been good too, and of course Leeds has been good for me too, because I got my first century against England in 1948 on the Leeds ground, and those are the grounds that I remember a lot, plus the one at Durban in South Africa, where we got caught on a sticky wicket in the first inning. We got bowled out for 78. We were chasing 319, and if they had followed us on, we'd have been cleaned up, not a problem. But Dudley Norse decided he would bat again because he got a reading from the Weather Bureau that there was going to be another storm. So he said, well, we'll bat again and we'll catch him when the wicket's real nasty again. So he did, but Hassett, being such a clever captain that he was, he said to Miller, Lindwall, Bill Johnson and Ian Johnson, keep these guys in as long as you can, just bowl straight, don't do anything to the ball, just keep them in as long as you can, hoping this wicket's going to get a bit better. So we finally got them out for 99, which left us 336 to win. And I suppose I got to say that that's probably one of my best innings I ever played. I finished with 151 not out, and we won the game by 5 wickets. So that would be a favourite ground too.
Fantastic. Okay. What do you believe to be your greatest character strength?
Attack. I played 79 test matches, and I've been renowned, I suppose, people keep telling me this, of having reasonably good footwork, especially against slow bowling, and I played 79 test matches and never got stumped once in any of those 79 test matches. And it wasn't through lack of coming down the wicket. It was, I suppose, picking the line, the length of the ball up quickly, and doing something about it. But I've always been an attacking player. I believe that's the only way to succeed, and I base my my playing ability on attack. And it's the old story, mate. You've got the ball, I've got the bat. I'm going to beat you, or you're going to beat me. Simple as that. That's what the game's all about, and that's the attitude I went into Test cricket with. That attitude, and that's how I played it.
Okay, brilliant. Which cricketer do you most admire, and why?
Well, I suppose everybody admired Bradman. I didn't see him in the 30s. I was too young, and in fact I actually didn't see him play till I played with him. I didn't see any of the 46, 47 test matches when England came out for the first time after the war, and so I didn't actually see him play until I was selected for Victoria, and we played a game in Adelaide against South Australia, and that was the first time I'd seen him play. He made 100, of course, as half of the course with him, but actually playing with him, I was selected to play with him in that same season, when in those days Australian selectors used to pick an Australian 11 to play against a touring side, and it happened to be India at the time, and the game was played in Sydney, and I was selected to play in this Australian 11 side, and it happened to be the match that Don Bradman made his 100th century. So it's something else I vividly remember. I didn't actually bat with him. I followed him in actually, but I didn't actually bat with him, and in fact I didn't bat with him all that much all my cricketing life, not even over here in 48. I just had the odd little wee stint with him, because when you've got a batting line-up like we used to have in 48, you know, with Morrison, Barnes and Bradman and Hassett and Miller and Brown and all these guys, it's a bit difficult to bat. So my little sojourns in the middle with Bradman were next to nothing. I got one small one in Leeds in the second innings, and I get accused or blamed of Bradman not averaging 100, because on the last day we had to get 404 to win. Inside the last day, England batted on for 5 minutes on the last day, and before they declared, put the heavy roller on, and batted for 5 minutes, declared, which gave us up till 6 o'clock, because there were no overs in those days. We just played by the clock. So we had a quarter of an hour out for the start of the game, chasing 404. And we all witnessed one of the great partnerships of all time, I think, between Bradman and Arthur Morris. They both made 172 and 180 odd, respectively, and it came about when we needed 4 runs to win. And Keith Miller got out, and I went in. And Ken Cranston was bowling. And Bradman was up the other end when I came in. And Ken Cranston bowled with this thing down the leg stump, and I punched it through mid wicket for 4. That won the game. Now, if Bradman had those winning runs, he would have averaged 100 in Test cricket. So I take the blame for Bradman not averaging 100 in Test cricket instead of his 99.94. I wasn't going to know he was going to make a duck in his last Test innings, mind you. So I'll take the blame anyway.
Okay, excellent. Which cricketer from any era would you most like to bat with, and why?
That's a difficult question, isn't it? A real difficult question. If I had a batting partner who I thought I played a little bit like I did, I'd probably go for Dennis Compton. I remember the first time I saw Dennis in '48. I was 12th man in the first 3 Test matches, and I fielded quite a bit during those 3 Test matches because Ray Lindwall was off the field occasionally, and we were playing the first Test at Nottingham. And Dennis came out, and he had one of these Warsops bats that he used to use in those days, and he made 180 against us. The most marvellous innings. I reckon that bat must have been 12 inches wide because we couldn't get past it. It was the most marvellous innings I've seen, and he just played all the shots, and he had his characteristic sweep shot, which nobody could play it like he could. But if I had to choose anybody as a batting partner, because I reckon we both played similar sort of games, I'd choose Dennis Compton.
Okay, very good. Which cricketer from any era would you most like to bowl with, and why? 3 Test victims.
What's that question again?
Sorry, which cricketer from any era would you most like to bowl with?
Bowl with?
Bowl
with. I was a good bowler. Yeah. I boast a great record of having 3 Test wickets at 40. all unassisted, all bowled. I had 2 Indians in 1959-60. The Indian captain, Ramchand, got him out at Kanpur, and a fellow called Milka Singh, I got him out at Madras. And the other one, we had South Africa out in 52-3, and it was near the end of the game in Adelaide, and Lindsay gave me a bowl, and Russell Lendine was batting, and I tossed this gentle off-spin delivery up, which didn't turn. He must have thought it was going to turn. He tried to play a sweep shot and went straight on and knocked his off stump. So they were my 3 treasured wickets in Test cricket. But talking about bowlers to bowl with, I've got to say the best bowler I ever played against comes from here. He's a great friend of mine, been a friend of mine for 63 years, and he's a bloke called Sir Alec Betzer. I choose bowlers because of the way they can handle all conditions in all countries, and not everybody can do it. You get fellas like Laker, who was a great bowler in this country, in Australia, not as effective. Lockie the same, but Alec Betzer could bowl anywhere in the world and do it beautifully. Especially over here, because he used to have all these enormous leg cutters, and I've seen him get fellas out with just unplayable deliveries, balls pitching middle of the leg and knocking the off bail off and all that sort of stuff. And I've seen him bowl great players like Bradman and Hassett, and they could bat a bit, but I tell you, he could bowl a bit. So he would get my vote as the best bowler I ever played against.
Okay. And how did it feel to score your first Test century?
Oh, you should have asked my mate Sammy Loxton about that. My first one was actually against India. The first one against England was over here in '48, but I made one of my second Test match ever against India in 1947-48, and that happened to be Sam's first Test match. And it was my second. So we both had a good day actually. I made 153 and Sam made 80. So we had a good day between us. But over here, that one that I made here would be tremendously well remembered, because we were chasing 496 and we'd lost 3 for 68. 3 fair batsmen who had been dismissed, Morris, Hassett and Bradman, for 68 runs. We're chasing this enormous total of 498. And Keith Miller was batting at the time when I went out to bat, and I walked out and he came and met me halfway. In my tones I said to him, "Hey Nagare," he says, "what's going on out there? Let's get stuck into him." Now he maintains I said that to him, but I don't know whether I did or not. Being a brash 19-year-old, I may have done. So anyway, he said, "Okay, get up the other end," he said, "and I'll take the bowling for a while to get yourself organised." So I said, "That'll do me, mate. I couldn't get up there quick enough." So after a while I brought Laker on. And at the fourth ball of Laker's over, Keith planted 1 foot down the wicket and the ball disappeared over my head on the rise into the crowd for 6. And I thought to myself, gee, that was pretty good. Last ball of the over, same thing happened. Keith Miller plants 1 foot down the wicket, the ball soars over my head, down into the 6 down the Kirkstall lane end, and I thought to myself, gee, this can't be such a tough game after all. So Keith and I put on a 100 partnership, and before he got out, and he got out for 56, and then my old mate Sammy came in, and we put on 100, and before I got out and left him to it. He's never forgiven me, mind you, but never mind. But he did play the best Test innings I think he's played in his life. He made 93. He hit Laker for 5-6, no, 4-6, and he hit somebody else for 1, Cranston for 1, I think. So he hit 5 sixes. If he used the bats today, he'd have hit 25 sixes. But with the bats we used, he only hit 5, you see. That's the difference. And but he made 93, and Yardley decided to give himself a bowl. He bowled, medium pace seamers. And I think Sam started to lick his lips, you see. He's 93 not out. And he's batting down the Kirkstall lane end, and you can see these stands of the football stadium behind Yardley's arm. And you can see him thinking, I'm going to hit this one into that rugby field. And I'm going to hit it so far, they have to give me 7 instead of 6. So Yardley comes in, he bowls this thing on a good length, and Sam, 1 foot down, into the rugby ground it was going to go. Loxton bowled Yardley 93. But it's a great dig, and it helped us. That couple of partnerships I had with Keith and Sam got us to within striking distance of England's 496. We were ably supported, Sammy was, especially with Ray Lindwall, who made 77, and they had a nice little partnership after I left, and so we got within, I think we made 460 odd, chasing the 498, so it got us within striking distance. And of course that last day when this brilliant partnership between Morris and Bradman won the game for us, so that's a little episode of the Leeds Test match.
Okay, what does the spirit of the game mean to you?
I played in an era where the spirit of the game was absolutely brilliant. Since the 1970s, the spirit of the game has disappeared. And I go back to the era of probably Ian Chappell and Tony Gregg when they were captain of their various countries. and they started to develop this love-hate business on the cricket field, and the word sledging emerged. And I might add at this stage, in my day and in Sam's day and in Arthur Morris's day, there wasn't a word of sledging. If somebody made 100, you go and shake his hand and say, well played. And I can still see when I pushed Laker for a single to get my 100 at Leeds, when I was batting with Sam, we rushed through for the single, and when I got the bowlers in, Jim Laker tapped me on the shoulder and said, well played. And that's how it used to be in those days, but now it's gotten worse and worse and worse, where it's reached a stage recently, and this year, that Cricket Australia had to write a letter to every first-class player in Australia, stating the rules of the spirit of cricket. No sledging, be nice to your neighbour or your enemy. And that's how it is. And I noticed a bit yesterday when they got played, the day's play was finished, and a few of our blokes went up and shook Strauss's hand, and I thought that was a sign of things to come. I hope it's a sign of things to come. But this bad behaviour stuff like we had against India last year was absolutely disgusting. You know, Simons and Harbhajan Singh and all this stuff, and it just got out of control, and something had to be done about it, and I'm pleased Cricket Australia has done something about it to try and fix it, because it needs to be fixed. It's become worldwide. It's not just England, Australia, but it's India, Australia, everybody. But I think we're the main antagonists to start it all, and I hope we're the first to get rid of it.
Brings me on to really here, how optimistic are you for the future of the game?
Yeah, well, the future of the game is worrying. The game today is not the game that I used to play. I look at these English wickets. When I first came over here in 1948, they were real green, seamy wickets. The ball used to move around, and the first time we got to Lords, we were playing Middlesex, and we arrived at the ground about an hour and a half before play started, and Sam and I were standing on the players' balcony out here, and the stumps weren't up and the creases weren't marked, weren't quite ready yet, and we stood there on the players' balcony and we looked out, and I said to Sam, where in the hell are we going to play? It was the same colour as the outfield. And it was a beaut cricket wicket. I mean, the bowler had a chance, the batsman had a chance. And now wickets all around the world are dead flat. None of them do anything. And there is getting too much of a gap between the bat and the ball. One of the other factors is the size of the boundaries are too small. Even on the smallest grounds, they still put a rope 15 yards inside the fence. Why? For God knows, I don't know. Sam and I were brought up on the Melbourne Cricket Ground, which is the biggest cricket ground Test cricket was played on. We had to hit the ball into the gutter, out to the fence to get 4. Today, that boundary rope is 30 yards inside. To me, that is absolutely disgusting. But my main gripe is the bats they use today. You pick them up and they weigh about 2 pounds 10, and the edges are about 2 inches thick, and they've got a huge sweet spot on them apparently, which you can't miss, because you've only got to play a forward defensive shot and it goes for 4, past the bowler. I think there are, because of these 3 reasons, there are too many inflated batting figures around today. Blokes are averaging 50s, and which they're not good enough to do it. But the figure's there that they are doing it because of these 3 factors that I've mentioned to you. And if these bats get any better, mate, the game will be ruined, because nobody will want to bowl. It'll be like 2020 cricket. Who wants to bowl in 2020 cricket? I mean, you bowl out and see if they can hit it. You know, that's all it's all about. And this game, Test match cricket, is getting the same. That's the advantage with the batters getting far too great, where the bowler's going to say, oh God, I'm not going to be a bowler, it's too hard. So they've got to do something with the wickets to give the bowler a bit of a chance, and they've got to curb the manufacture of the technology of these cricket bats.
The game has changed over many, many years.
As I say, it is not the only two things that haven't changed since I played is the ball and the stumps. The rest has all changed.
It's a very, very astute observation.
Yeah.
Players nowadays, we were just talking earlier about maybe where professionalism and the amount of money in the sport, and that is so far away from where cricket started from and how it was played. Must be a few sort of worries there that the way people are playing cricket and how they play cricket has changed, maybe not for the good.
That's exactly right.
Sorry, can we just go back to that question? Sorry, we're asking you.
Okay.
We've just held a card.
All right.
If you can hold that spot.
You've done all the...
Just been speaking over time how cricket has changed, and the players now have so much more to deal with, and they have to have all this bonding to get used to being a team. In your day, there was a 4 to 5 week boat trip to get to know people. Valuable time?
Absolutely crucial time, yeah. In those days they had 2 class ships, and I suppose the cricket board in Australia has always had a bit of money, and they decided to send us first class, which was great. So we had 2 to a cabin, and the captain and the manager and the vice captain had a cabin each, but the rest of us all had to bunk up, you see. And of course Sam Lofton was my cabin mate, and but it's a tremendous way to go. You've got 28 days from Fremantle in Australia to Tilbury in London here, and in those 28 days I didn't know too much about these guys. I was only 19 and I hadn't played against some of them, but during those 28 days you get to know each other on the way over. You've got plenty of time to do it. You strike up before you get halfway, friendships with most of them, and by the time you get off the other end in London for the start of the tour, you'll find that the whole team is really bonded together in one good unit, and they're ready to play cricket straight away. So that's the advantage of a boat trip, and I did 4 of them. I did 4 tours to England, and all by ship and back again, and I thought it was an excellent way to travel and get to know your fellow cricketers. And of course, people used to say, did you get any practice on board ship? And I said, well, we got a bit of practice of sorts, because the crew used to put the nets up on the sports deck up there, and as you know, the sports deck is all plank boards, and they're well-worn plank boards, and they used to put the nets up, and they had a makeshift wicket made out of a block of wood with some sticks coming out of it. And of course you can't use a leather cricket ball, and we didn't have any gear anyway because it was all down the hold. But the crew used to sit there and used to make cricket ball size out of rope. They used to twine this rope around to cricket ball size, and up at the bowler's end there was a bucket of water, and whoever was bowling at the time used to have to dunk the ball in the bucket of water before he bowled it, so that the ball would slide off the deck fairly quickly. So that's how we used to practice, and of course with the passengers on board there was always like the challenges to a friendly test match, and so we used to have a bit of fun, a bit of exercise, and it's just a small way of sort of keeping your eye in if you wanted a bat, or if the bowlers wanted to roll their arm over, they could do that. So by the time we got to England, we were all, Sam and I were especially fit because we used to play deck tennis day in and day out, and we didn't take it notice of the rules because we used to throw this thing over there. Whoever dropped it first lost the point, and if the ball was going to go over the side, we'd still try and catch it and throw it back, you know. So there's no rules in the game, and it was just a matter of get as much exercise as we could, and we got off the other end pretty in fit condition. So, but it was good life, and we got to know each other pretty well on the way over.
Of course, nowadays there's a fitness coach, a physiotherapist, who we've seen a little bit more of more recently, at the wrong time possibly. and a whole entourage to support the team that are playing. And I guess more so back then, it was just yourselves, independent thinking, and just trusting on your own technique and ability.
Absolutely. We didn't have a coach. Coaches in cricket were unheard of in my day, right through until, well, reasonably recently, I suppose. But in our day, I think it was always Bradman's theory, if you're good enough to get to this level, look after yourself. And that's what we did. When I first came over here, I was having a little bit of a struggle with these green pitches I've mentioned before. And I was having a bit of a battle. I was averaging 7 after 4 games. And I said to Sam, he was my roommate, and I said, Sam, I can't handle this. It's too good for me. I said, would you do me a favour? And he said, yeah, what do you want? Because he's always been good friends with Bradman, you see. And I said, would you go and ask the boss what I'm doing wrong? I'm not making too many runs. He said, okay. So he went to Bradman, and he always called him George, you see, his second name, George. He said, hey, George, he said, my little mate's got a problem, he said. He's not going too good. Can you tell him what he's doing wrong? And Bradman never told me anything in his life. The answer came back the same way, through Sam. He said to Sam, you go back and tell your little mate that if he keeps the ball on the ground, he can't get out. And that's the only advice he offered me during my cricket career. So that's how the game has changed. We didn't have any physios, or we didn't have any coaches, we didn't have any hangers-on. We had a manager. We had a baggage man scorer who did both things. He got our bags together after each day's play and got them on a bus from, say, London to Leicester or wherever we're going to play. And we had a masseur, a Tasmanian bloke from Tassie, and that's all we had. That was our total of 20 blokes. That was our complete party. So we didn't need anybody else. And I can't see how they need them now either.
I was going to say that there's a lot of distractions, I think, these days for the cricketers who are still being expected to perform. I think maybe back then you're able to more concentrate because it was just you and the cricket.
Yeah, well, see, they appoint coaches who couldn't play these days. Now, we've had a couple the last few years. I mean, this fellow Buchanan, he was, wasn't he consultant to English cricket over here?
I think for a while.
I bet he didn't tell you too much. And now we've got this Sheffield Shield wicketkeeper coaching Australia. Now what can he tell Ricky Ponting what's wrong with his batting? Or what's wrong with Johnson's bowling? What would he know as being a wicketkeeper?
No, good.
He might be able to straighten Haddon out a bit, but
if he needs it, yeah.
But irrelevant. All those people are irrelevant. I don't care. They don't teach you anything. If you get to that level, you can cope if you're any good. Simple as that. Whether you're a batsman, bowler, or a fieldsman.
Just going back to what you're saying about the different pitches, and obviously over time, we were just talking earlier that a lot of them are now flat wickets,
yeah.
A lot of runs. It's not making cricket, should we say, interesting or a result likely, and that surely can't be a good thing for the game. Maybe we should go back to uncovered wickets or a tinge of green and actually have wickets that are different around the world.
Yeah, well, I've been sort of advocating uncovered wickets again for donkey's ages, but nobody will listen. I mean, it is the only place that you're going to get fair game of cricket. Let the elements in. That's what it used to be when the game first started. Now with the players get all mollycoddled and God knows what, they get spoilt to death. They've got to do something with the wickets to help the bowler. That's my main gripe about this game. The bats and the wicket conditions and the short boundaries are my three main gripes. And if they can do something to fix those up and help the bowler a little bit, I'm afraid the game might be in for a sad end.
we've obviously got 3 versions of cricket, if you like, at the moment, from Test matches, one-day internationals, and 2020 cricket. Do you see maybe a divide between the two to allow Test cricket to stay the purest form of the game and let everything else move to one side, or do you see the sort of the 3 being integrated as we go forward?
Well, they're obviously going to be integrated because these 2020s and have taken over from 50-50s now as far as public appeal goes. In Australia, we've still got fairly strong appeal for Test cricket, which is good. And the 50-50 game they're all sold out, and of course now the 2020 games are all sold out. So I suppose I can understand it really when a game's over in a matter of 3 hours, or the other one's over in a matter of 100 overs, and the game's finished and somebody wins. I can understand that, but I can't get away from the fact that you need a bit of skill to play Test cricket. And you're not getting it in 50-50 cricket or 20-20 cricket, not with the bowlers or the batsmen. You might get a bit of fielding skills, but you're not getting any batting or bowling skills as far as building an innings or setting a field to get somebody out. You can't do it in those miniature games of cricket. And I just hope that Test cricket continues to thrive and survive, because I'll be very, very sad about it if it disappears.
And that's how the game was started, and really it should be kept as it is. It's where people's careers and people are remembered from their feats in the Test cricket, not in the shorter version of the game.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the current ideas of the players of the current brigade, I think, still revere Test cricket as the best. And I just hope it maintains it that way, because I worry about the young people being brought up to this new sort of cricket, 2020 and 50-50 cricket. The kids coming through are going to be brought up to that. They're not going to be brought up to Test cricket as much. They're going to learn this rubbishy stuff first before they get into Test cricket. And so I just worry a bit about the future of the game because of these young people coming through being brought up, in my opinion, the wrong way.
I guess if it brings them into the game to then want to play the longer version of the game, that would be a good thing. But maybe if they kept it their only spectacle as 2020 or one-day internationals, it's not really why they should be playing cricket.
That's right. Yeah.
For money as opposed to as a hobby, as it always used to be.
Well, I suppose most of them play for the money these days anyway. Whether it be 2020, 50-50 or Test cricket, they just play for the money these days, and I'm not sure they will put a lot back into it anyway. You know, they just sort of grab what's there and say what's next.
Well, we hope Test cricket will continue for a long, long time. But thank you very much.
My pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Very good.